children. The National Council of Churches since 1950 has served as a leading voice and witness to the living of Christ. The National Council of Churches is a diverse covenant community of 38 member communions and over 35 million individuals, 100,000 congregations from Protestant, Anglican, historic African American, Orthodox, evangelical, and living peace traditions, and a common commitment to advocate and represent God's love and promise of unity in our public square. The NCC works with secular and interfaith partners to advocate a shared agenda of peace, progress, and positive change. I stand here on behalf of the NCC and its 38 communions and join in the chorus of commending and thanking God for a Congresswoman, Betty McCollum, who has taken on this issue and really elevated it, as she said, once she heard the story. There's something to be said about hearing and seeing and not unsee, and not being able to unhear what you have experienced. Earlier this year, in February, the National Council of Churches led a delegation of South African faith leaders and African American faith leaders from historic African American congregations and leadership on a pilgrimage to the Israeli and Palestinian territories. The visit included the opportunity to visit several homes of Palestinian families. I say opportunity because to open one's home to strangers and offer food and drink when your own resources are limited is a sacred act of radical hospitality. I was particularly moved by the visit in the home of one family in Ramallah that included the parents and 4 children. When we entered the home, the parents led us to their living room, where we all sat around and they offered us refreshments. From where I sat, I could see what appeared to be maybe the kitchen area, and there were a couple of children sitting, appearing to do their homework. They were kids, they were being kids. They would laugh a little bit and they'd look over and snicker at the adults, while the parents at the forefront told their story. In addition to the parents, one of the other sons, who was about 20 years old, had recently been released from prison, telling his story of arrest and the story of a younger brother who was still in prison. As the parents and the son talked, I listened, but I also could not help but think of and see the children in the background doing their homework, being children. As the family talked, it finally became clear that every member of this family had experienced being detained, interrogated, and physically injured by Israeli soldiers, including the 11-year-old little boy who was in the background doing his homework and being a child. This child had experienced being awakened in the middle of the night by soldiers with guns drawn, fully dressed in military gear. We've heard that from each one of the previous speakers. This child had experienced being shot with rubber bullets and injured by soldiers. This child had experienced being detained, interrogated without his parents or any adult supervision. This child was sitting in the background, doing his homework, being a child. We have to take the plight of children who live in the occupied West Bank out of the background. We have to take children out of the background of the issues that are facing our country. The intimidation and terrorizing of children is immoral and unconscionable. Children are being used as pawns to get to their parents and those fighting for liberation of Palestinian people. But it's also a means of conditioning these children to not believe that they are worthy of respect, that they are less than, that they are not entitled to basic human rights because they are somehow less humans. As this child sat in the background doing his homework, His parents told us of how he experienced nightmares. He and they are afraid allowed him to go out alone. His story, their story, is not isolated. You've heard that since 2000, over 10,000 children have been detained, prosecuted, incarcerated by Israeli soldiers. Right here in the United States, most recent records indicate that we have detained almost 70,000 children from the southern border. Again, our children are in the background. The NCC delegation of South African church leaders and African American leaders from historic African American denominations viewed the landscape of people's lives and experiences from the lens of people with a history of oppression and occupation as experienced in apartheid South Africa, slavery, Jim Crow, the modern Jim Crow, police brutality of people of African descent. The South African delegation said that what they saw, what they heard, what they experienced was worse than apartheid. I, as an African American female who was also involved in dealing with police brutality and aware of our own experience here in the United States, we are aware of how this kind of behavior, the Jim Crow era, and currently now, when young people are afraid to go out and again be children because of what will happen. But it's a mindset that has to also change. In order for our children to feel safer, we have to take the issues of children out of the background. There is a saying by an African tribe, the Maasai community, it says, and I'm not going to try to say the term in their language, but the phrase is, how are the children? And the response in any village should be that the children are well, because how children are is a reflection of what that community's health is, holistically. But we tend to consider children's issues as the behind-the-scene minor issue. Children's issues should be at the very forefront of everything we do, because that is what the foundation of any nation, any global understanding, is in how our children are doing. The Bible is really great things that help us in this area. Where your treasures are, there also is your heart. A budget is a moral document. How we choose to spend money is an indication of where our passions, concerns, and interests are. So if we're spending money to help fund military occupation that is harming our children emotionally, physically, spiritually, we're saying that that is what we believe in and we think that's okay. Right here, we're spending money detaining children and taking them from their parents. We're saying that's where our heart is and that's what we believe. So we stand in support of this bill, but we stand in support of loving our children, having a moral obligation to ensure that when someone says, how are the children? That we can say that our children are well, and we can say that our community is well. And we're dealing with trauma that has an impact that goes on from generation to generation to generation. You know the phrase that hurting people hurt people? We are teaching hurt, we're teaching hate. As we told these stories, and the family mentioned that how the young son would wake up and have these nightmares, I saw one clip in which they actually filmed military soldiers coming into a home. And the kids, they woke these children up. And it's something to see the listlessness, the hopelessness in the eyes and the behavior of the children. They woke them up and they just got up and they were sleepy-eyed and they just said, and they kept asking them their names, and the kids had a hard time even remember the name. One child said Muhammad, and they was like, well, that's not his name. It was really sad, but they were so accustomed to it that they got up and they tried to respond, and they sat and they answered questions, and then the soldiers left. And the parents were trying to put the kids back to bed. And one of the children just had a complete total breakdown. But he had learned, he had already learned to maintain and hold his fear, his anger, and his confusion in front of the soldiers. That is not a good role for any child who will grow up to have various leadership roles, we hope, will make a difference in this world. So let's please take our children out of the background. If you